everyone, welcome to my channel about co-creation. My name is Lisa and I spent 5 years organizing collaborative university competitions for world well-known companies to solve extreme innovation challenges. And now I help businesses to innovate and solve their R&D and business challenges with hackathons. And today you will learn how to organize your own internal hackathon. I'm going to share a framework that you can use based on the example of the hackathon I organized for an IT company. I'm going to share all the details, all the steps, what is important at each step, how you can organize the process, and how you can prepare for it. I'm going to give you a full plan of 8 steps. And I have to mention that this is just one example of the hackathon. There could be different frameworks to use depending on your goals, on your participants, on the challenge itself. But this framework that I'm going to share is good for a 2-day hackathon that is going to be fully online. And if you have a distributed team, if your team members live in different countries and work from different countries, it's going to really work for such a case, and it's going to be good for such a case. The goals of the hackathon that I conducted for that IT company were not only connected to actually solving the business challenge that the company has, but also in order to improve and enhance the internal company's culture, to help team members meet each other outside of work and learn what they do at work, and just to get them all together. And it was a kind of a team building event as well. I also want to say that this framework is carefully planned and each stage is there for a reason. For this one, there are some extra steps, and these steps are added based on my experience with such co-creation, collaboration events, such projects. So certain steps are there because they will enhance the effect of the hackathon. They will enhance this co-creation between the team members, and this is something that will just give better results. So let's go! And before we start, I want to introduce the company first. The hackathon was conducted for a software as a service provider of a white label ride-hailing/taxi platform. And yes, that's what we're going to use for an example to show not only theory, but also to share how it's going to look like in practice. So as I said, there are 8 steps in the whole journey. And step number 1, one of the most important steps, is defining the challenge. I'm pretty sure that many of you know that the problem definition is going to influence the results that you're going to get. I already have a video on my channel about how to come up with the right challenge for a co-creation process. Here, I just want to mention that there are 2 main things that you need to remember when you are thinking about the problem that you want to go with for a co-creation process such as hackathon. It should be precise and it should be focused, and it also should be difficult to solve, so it should be ambitious. So it might be good to go with a problem that you've been trying to solve for a while, but you're not able to find a solution. So this is something that is pretty ambitious, of course. And also it's good to go with a problem that is really important for your company. Something that will come from strategic goals of your organization so that the entire team understands it. And of course, it's good to keep the challenge definition brief and clear. At this stage, it is also essential to come up with a set of criteria based on which future solutions will be rated, evaluated. So it's a good practice to include maybe novelty, speed of implementation, resources required to implement the solution, and other criteria that are important for your particular business goal. So when it comes to the goal of our example, the main goal for the company was to increase revenue, of course, like for any business. And the main business model for the company is revenue share. So the more successful its customers get and the quicker they grow, the higher the revenue of the company. But one of the biggest challenges for the clients, for the customers of the company, was that they were not growing quickly enough. And in many cases, they were just failing. And it is something understandable because the main customers of the company, of the example company, were entrepreneurs that were starting their own taxi ride-hailing businesses. And of course, most of the new companies fail. This is something that everyone knows. Anyway, the way for the customers of the example company to grow is to make more trips. Again, I want to remind you, this is a taxi/ride-hailing business. And of course, this is how their revenue grows and how the profit of our example company increases. So following all the rules, keeping in mind the industry specific, the following challenge was suggested. How do we make X% of new partners get to Y trips per month? When it comes to a set of criteria for this challenge, we decided that we do not want to limit participants with any specific amount of money for their strategy, any specific speed of implementation of their solutions. So when it comes to criteria and what was expected at the end of the challenge was the following. First of all, it had to be a comprehensive strategy that would allow to solve the challenge. A solution that was basically a presentation had to include a description of an overall strategy, a step-by-step implementation plan that would include approximate timeframes and budget, and solution justifications. So the teams had to explain why they believe their idea is going to solve the challenge. So this is everything that was really expected, just a presentation that is going to explain all these details. It was also mentioned that the strategy proposed could include technical solutions, marketing campaigns, changes in onboarding processes, changes in the system, in the solution that the company provides. Also, the teams were given a freedom to build an MVP or a mock-up, but it was optional, so they did not have to do this. But if they had inspiration or if they wanted to do something that, then they are free to do that. And the more the details the team could provide, the better it is, of course. So this was a very general, a very basic set of criteria based on which the jury would rate the solutions. But in general, yeah, we decided that we do not need to come up with something extra and restrict participants. In your case, it might be something different. For example, you might have a certain budget in mind that you're ready to give for this solution, or you can have a certain time frame in mind. For example, you need to implement something within, 2-3 months only, and you are expecting for solutions that would fit into this time frame. Along with the definition of the challenge and along with the set of criteria, it is also important to set up certain rules of participating in a co-creation process. And the rules are the following. First of all ideas are welcome. Teams of participants needed to create a safe space for everyone and welcome open-mindedness. And even the craziest of ideas should be expressed and given a chance to be heard. This is something that is very important because the craziest ideas might be actually very valuable and they might be a solution. Also, any background was highly appreciated. It was important for us to gather participants from all the different departments. Even the technical people, the developers, back-end, front-end developers were welcome. And we wanted to make sure that they can express their opinions about this business challenge. Again, this was something that would ensure the variety of ideas. Another rule was that every opinion matters, and there are no stupid opinions during the brainstorming session, during the hackathon, and it was important for us to make sure that everyone can share their feedback, their thoughts. The next rule was connected to the teams, because in this hackathon we split participants into teams, and I do believe that this is also the best way that you can do for the hackathon. And all the teams needed to choose their team leader, someone who's going to be responsible for all the organizational moments and delivering the results on time. And another rule was that any tools can be used by participants, whatever they needed, they could use it. I have another video on my channel about the rules of the co-creation process, and you can just use this video and the rules that I suggested as a template, as an example of the rules, of the list of the rules that you could use for your hackathon. So step number 2, gathering background information. This is another preparational step in the process, and it is connected to gathering all the possible information about the challenge that might be useful for participants. This should include gathering company information and data from external sources. This background information is necessary for the participants to understand the problem better, the reasons behind the problem, and what has already been done to solve it. When it comes to our example company, as usually it happens with business challenges, the problem that the company faced was quite complex. On the one hand, the fact that the company's customers weren't growing quickly enough and were failing, it was not surprising. As I said, the customers are entrepreneurs, and it's a well-known fact that 9 out of 10 businesses usually fail. On the other hand, there was some specific industry-related issues that the customers faced, and they couldn't just deal with them easily. For example, there is this problem that is quite well known in the transportation business. It's about the right balance between the number of drivers and the number of passengers. So this was a very important background information for participants. In addition to the qualitative information that was presented to participants, quantitative data about the failure, survival rates, the average number of trips, it was all gathered and it was all presented before the challenge, before the hackathon, the official process started. So at this step, you basically gather all the available information that is related to this challenge, potential solutions to the problem, something that you have tried, something that maybe your competitors have tried, and you present it to your participants. It's good to actually present it 1 week before the start of the process, and it might be even good to gather a separate meeting before the official start, just to explain everything and to maybe answer the questions. It's gonna let the participants get ready for the official start and think about the problem before they actually dive into creating a solution for the problem. Step number 3, gathering participants. When you organize a hackathon, you need to clearly define who can participate. In our case, as I said, it was a fully internal hackathon, meaning that only team members, only employees could participate in the hackathon, in the process. But there could be other types of hackathons, for example, an external hackathon, where participants who don't work at the company are invited to participate. And there can be a hybrid solution when we have both participants from your team and some third parties, some people coming from the outside of the organization can also take part in the project. Each of these solutions has its pros and cons, of course. In our case, as I mentioned it earlier, it was important for the company to go with the fully internal hackathon because it was also a kind of a team building activity. As we're talking about the framework for an internal hackathon, I want to specifically highlight one point. You need to invite participants from all the different departments of your company. Don't hesitate to go to each and every department, even some service departments. They can be helpful. These people can have amazing ideas on how to improve what your company is doing and how to solve certain problems, and they really look at the challenge, at the problem from different angles. I think I will never get tired to highlight how important it is for such events to invite people with absolutely different background. So please make sure you do it, because when you are involved in an external hackathon, you invite third parties, you invite someone who is not aware of some details of how your company operates, and they bring their experience from the outside, they bring their experience from other industries, maybe from other companies. But here you are dealing with what your team knows. So if you invite only people from business departments to solve the business challenge, you will not get such a variety of ideas. And this is what is extremely important. You need to get these different ideas and different solutions. In our example, we had teams probably from every possible department. We had, as I said, people from front end, people from back end, we had people from human resources, some people from marketing, from sales, from support, of course, from product management. Just each and every department was involved in solving the challenge. The participation was voluntary, and we gathered everyone who expressed their desire to participate, and it was almost 1/3 of the whole team. And we split participants into 5 teams. Each team had 7 persons, and we made sure that all the teams included people from different departments with absolutely different roles. This is something that is also important. You don't want to have the whole team of front-end developers or of marketers. It's not going to be that fun, and you will not get this variety of ideas. And once we defined the teams, we announced them, and we prepared a space in Slack, because Slack is the main messenger that the company uses. So we created separate channels for each team in Slack. Of course, they were closed channels, and we invited these teams in their channels so that they can already start communicating with each other. Step number 4, choosing the awards and the jury. When you organize a hackathon, even if it's fully internal, it's always good to provide with some incentives for participants, because people invest a lot of efforts into participation. They invest their time, and of course it's always nice to know that you won something, you won the challenge or whatever, but it's good to get something back for your effort. And here financial awards are probably the best and the most obvious way to motivate your participants. This is the way to show them that you truly value their contribution. What the award is given for usually depends on which qualities you want to encourage during the process. For example, usually I recommend to go for at least 2 different awards, and the first one being the Creative Award, the Most Innovative Solution Award, to encourage participants think about some novel ideas, something out of the box. It might be something that is not typical for the company, but I do strongly believe that when it comes to the long-term perspectives, such ideas, such solutions might truly bring a lot of benefits for the business. That's why I encourage you to also think about this type of the award. And another type of the award is the Implementation Award. This is usually given to participants that came up with a solution that might get implemented and will be implemented by the company straight away after the hackathon. Maybe I cannot say it's the most obvious thing, but it's definitely something that is easy to implement right now, something that the company has capabilities to implement, and something that might bring maybe not that amazing result in the long-term perspective, but it will give the result straight away. Usually the awards are given to the teams, and then participants split them among themselves. But in our case, it is also very important to additionally motivate participants to contribute to other teams' solutions during the brainstorming session. And for this, we have this personal award for co-creation. And those 3 awards, so the Personal Co-Creation Award, the Implementation Award, and the Creative Award, are the ones that we agreed on with the management of the example company. Also, at this stage, it is good to come up with a jury team, people who will rate the solutions, who will evaluate them. These should be people from the management, of course. It's good if you have a chance to invite your top management to your hackathon and include them in the jury, and it might include also heads of relevant departments. In our example case, we had 2 founders in the jury team, and we had 2 heads of departments of the business departments to evaluate the solutions. Step number 5, setting up project infrastructure. So whether you're going for an online, like in our case, hackathon, or you're doing an offline hackathon, you still need different tools to help participants communicate in the best way. You need tools for your brainstorming session, you need tools for voting, and that's basically what you need to come up with, what you need to prepare for your event. In our example, we used the following tools. First of all, we used Slack and Google Meet for communication. Now, Slack and Google Meet are the tools that the example company, uses in their daily life, in their daily activities. I would not recommend using Google Meets for hackathons, if I'm being honest, simply because it does not provide enough information for you on participants, on who joined when, like all those details, all this data. This is something that you might want to have. Maybe for the internal hackathon, it's not that critical, but when it comes to inviting third parties, I always prefer to have this information. And when it comes to Slack, I do believe that Slack is a really great platform because it allows you to create all the different channels. It's easy to use. It allows you to have all the quick calls within the team. So I don't know, like in general, please feel free to use the communication tools that you usually use in your company. I'm pretty sure that they would work for you. Now, when it comes to the brainstorming session, I would go with Miro. Miro is my personal preference. This is the tool that I've been using for a while. This is basically a whiteboard which allows you to create all the different templates. And I just love Miro. There are other tools that exist, of course. And for example, I know that a lot of enterprises, they use Microsoft Teams, and Microsoft also has their own tool for brainstorming, for ideation, another tool for a whiteboard. And yeah, please feel free to use whatever you want, but I use Miro, and in this case we used Miro as well, and I just came up with templates for each solution in Miro. When it comes to voting and sharing anonymous feedback, that's where you need another tool, and I am so used to Mentimeter, and again in this case we used Mentimeter. It's a great tool, it's very easy to use, and I'm pretty sure that you will find it amazing for gathering this feedback, for making votes, that you can just create this presentation in Mentimeter and you can launch it, allowing people to vote while they are enjoying the presentations of participants. And we also used the tool to gather all the different ideas that participants came up with, not only the ones that were actually presented during the hackathon, but also something that they came up with while they were brainstorming within their teams, something that were not chosen to be added to the final presentation. But these ideas are also very valuable, and to gather all of them we use Notion. This is a great tool to gather all the ideas, but in general a simple Google Doc might also work. Step number 6, and this is basically the hackathon itself. Such events as hackathons, they put a lot of pressure on participants, so they should be relatively short. In our case, in our example, it was a 2-day event, and I do believe that the maximum days that you can go with is 5 days, and the minimum would probably be like a 1-day event, 24-hour event. But yeah, in our case, we decided that it was optimal to go with a 2-day event. Now, what did happen during these 2 days? It's good to start your event, your hackathon event, with the general introduction session, introduction presentation. During this introductory meeting, you should explain all the details about the challenge. Of course, you provided some information before the hackathon, but still this is a good way to just remind your teams, remind your participants what is happening, what we are doing it for. And I do believe that it is really good if the management team can present the challenge themselves and share also some background information themselves. During this introductory meeting, it is also good to explain all the rules once again, all the expectations once again, the structure of the process, and let participants ask their questions and answer them. The main goal of this introductory meeting is to make sure that everyone, every party of the process understands the process and what we are looking for. After this meeting, it was the time for participants to work within their teams. In general, they should have their own processes within the teams, but it might be good for you to schedule first initial meetings for each team separately. And the whole day 1 might be dedicated to this work within the teams. Day 2 might start with initial presentations of solutions. This is, I think, a very good practice for the teams to present their ideas, to get this first feedback, to get these first questions, because it will help them to adapt and to modify their ideas for the final round, for the final presentations. They will see all the concerns, they will see disadvantages of their solution that they might have not seen before. So I do strongly recommend you to go with these initial presentations. And during this session, you can use Mentimeter to gather feedback, to gather all the questions, and then using this feedback, especially the negative one, especially if someone is talking about disadvantages of solutions and asking questions about these solutions, you can use it all to bring in it all to your mirror templates for brainstorming sessions. And these concerns and questions expressed by other participants are a good way to start your brainstorming session that is going to follow your initial presentations. Before starting the brainstorming session, it's really good to give a coffee break to participants, let them unwind a little bit and get ready for brainstorming. And this will also let you have this moment to actually prepare the templates based on the feedback that you gathered in your Mentimeter. So, and the brainstorming session starts with these separate boxes, with each box is dedicated to each team, and within each box we have different points, different, again, concerns, questions brought up by other participants. And together with all participants, with all the teams, we discuss all these points, and we should brainstorm and we should think how to overcome these challenges, how to improve solutions, how to help this certain team to improve their idea. And here, this co-creation award, this personal co-creation award, really comes into place because it encourages others to share their ideas, to share their thoughts, and to give feedback, to give their solutions to other teams that might be competitor teams, but because they have this additional incentive, they feel more open to provide with their ideas. And it is also great to talk about how you can combine different solutions and which new combinations you might find. So this might also give additional concepts. The facilitator of the project should track all the separate contributions of each participant. This is something based on what you will make a decision about the co-creation award. And after the brainstorming session, let your teams continue working on their ideas and finalizing their presentations based on the feedback, based on comments, based on new concepts that they heard during the brainstorming session. Step number 7, and I decided that it does make sense to make it as a separate step, so it is about finale. The final presentations at the end of the second day, or maybe you decided to go with a 3-day event, is the culmination of the whole process. All the teams present their solutions again to other teams and to the jury, and then everyone votes in Mentimeter. It is a good practice to give all the participants to vote along with the jury, and then the jury, based on these votes, they will make their final decision about the winners, about who will get the award. When it comes to the timing for the presentations, it is a very difficult question to me. In our case, we allocated 10 minutes. Timing is never enough. Teams will always try to present more, which is totally fine. But yeah, we decided to go with 10 minutes per presentation and then allocate 5 minutes for Q&A. But it does not mean that, if you have a lot of questions to a certain team, it does not mean that you should stop asking them and you should say to participants to stop with their questions after the time is over. That's why you have this chat function in most of the communication platforms, and allow participants and allow the jury, especially the jury, if they have questions, to ask their questions in the chat as well. And again, just want to highlight that don't forget to use Mentimeter to get your final votes. You can use this set of criteria that you decided on at the very beginning of the challenge for your Mentimeter votes. And also, it's good to present this voting criteria either before the hackathon or at least when you start with a hackathon. It's also good to make sure that participants know about them. After the last team finishes with their presentation, the jury should have a discussion about who wins and what they're doing next. What are the next steps with the solutions? For example, sometimes some ideas, some solutions should be improved in order to be taken to implementation, and the management might decide that they want to, go with this team and take these participants and to, work on their concepts together. So this is something that might be discussed during this final discussion. Allocate enough time for it. I would suggest to allocate at least 30 minutes for such a discussion, and this is also a good chance for participants to relax a bit, to enjoy their coffee or tea and to talk to each other about the whole event. So yeah, just make sure you have enough time. In our example, the jury, except for giving the words that were decided on at the very beginning, they also made a decision to give the MVP award, the award to the most valuable player. It was a person who came up with a technical solution for the product during this event, and this solution was actually implemented in the product. Step number 8, after the hackathon. After the event, you need to gather all the solutions, all the ideas that were not included in the final presentations, all the session recordings in one place. It's just a good practice because the team, the company might want to use these ideas later. But also, I do believe that it is really good to organize a small party after the event. We didn't do it. It was really a mistake, but even if you're doing something online, you can still gather, you can still organize a separate informal meeting and gather all the participants, everyone who wants to join for this event. Just, give them a chance to talk, because that's something that I heard from participants of our hackathon, that they kind of missed this opportunity and they wanted to talk. They wanted to discuss it. They wanted to discuss this event, this project. They were so excited about everything that happened. So yeah, this is a small tip from me. When it comes to other tips based on some previous mistakes, I just want to add that you really need to explain everything, all the details, because you might think that something is clear and obvious, but it is actually not. It is clear and obvious to you. Like, for example, I made this mistake with the tools. It was so easy for me to use Mentimeter. I knew all the details, but I forgot that for most of the participants, it was the first time using this tool. So you need to explain everything and provide as many details as possible. So yeah, this is it. Just to sum everything up, we went through the 8-step process of organizing an internal online hackathon that lasts for 2 days. We went from the preparation stage, when we came up with the challenge, the criteria, decided on participants, set up the infrastructure, etc., to the hackathon itself and to post-hackathon activities. I do want to remind you that this is just one example, one framework that you can use. There might be other models to use even for internal hackathon, even if you want to do something similar and you have similar goals, you can use other models as well. It's not like something that is set in stone, but all the steps that I provided are truly based on practice and based on my personal experience with co-creation processes. I do really hope that this video provided you with enough ideas and gave you this understanding of how to organize your own hackathon. And I do hope that you will do this within your company or for other companies as well, because I do strongly believe that hackathons and other co-creation activities are an absolutely great way to innovate. You get so many outstanding ideas and you learn more about your team and you see all these amazing people coming up with all these amazing ideas. I do believe that this is just, this is a really great thing to do for your company, and it enhances the culture and it brings a lot of joy and positive experience to everyone, apart from actually solving the challenges that are difficult to solve with your everyday routine. I hope that I didn't forget to mention any details, but I might have. So if you have any questions, please feel free to share them in the comment section below and I'll be happy to answer them. And yeah, see you next time with the next video. Have a great one. Bye!